With inflation growing and prices increasing in Metro Vancouver, owning a home is becoming more difficult for millennials. The younger generation must work longer hours, be more prudent with their money, and generally spend less on luxuries in order to be able to afford just an apartment. As millennials ourselves, this issue concerns our future. As inflation continues to rise, eventually we will have to sacrifice some things that are considered basic necessities in order for us to afford housing. We decided to meet with experts in the field to better understand the situation and what factors contribute to this issue. We asked them what the government can do to address the issue.
It depends on the macroeconomic. It's more like about the Canadian dollars. So I don't think the government can do anything. It's more like if you see our currency is 1 to 1, everyone goes to US to buy groceries. But if it's expensive, people stay. So same thing as Vancouver right now, because Canadian dollars is so weak compared to like the Asian or European currency. So people overseas are buying. So right, they are making the 15%. Temporary people will not think of buying. People go to Seattle, people go to Toronto, but in the long run, I think they will come back because what if next year U.S. raise the rates and then our currency drop another 5-10%? For them, it's a 10% discount. And also compared to our housing price to like New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, like we're still cheap compared to other major city in the world. So I think in order for people to afford something, government has to do something, but not like controlling the price because it won't really work. So yeah, the poor people they won't buy, but the rich people they don't care about the 15%. For them, they can make the money somewhere else. So this is not like a control with tax. But I would say, on the other hand, if our currency go back up because gold price goes up, oil price goes up, Canadian dollar will go up. And at that point, maybe nobody wants to buy. So even they don't do anything, it will go back down.
Part of it is already happening. The market is self-correcting itself and has been since before a lot of the rules came into effect as far as taxing foreign investors and there's also a new vacant homes tax and everything coming into play. So the market had already started to change in the spring before any of Christy Clark's action or even Gregor's actions came into effect. So I think like any market, it will self-correct itself, to a degree. But that said, I believe it'll only go so much, and the reason for that is, there's no real need for people to exit the market. Whereas, sometimes people compare our situation to what happened in the States in 2007, 2008. That had a lot to do with a whole, that was really just had to do with the way that the lending practices were there. You had people with, no income, no jobs, ninja loans, and then, it was chopped up into securities, and it was just this big, huge, pile of just, bad loans.
Yep.
And you don't have that in Canada. Most people have, a decent amount down, and the economy is still chugging along, although it's not doing great. It's doing okay. And so you're not seeing people that need to sell and need to exit the market. So there will be sort of, there will be a bottom to it, and I don't think I don't believe that the bottom of the market is going to fall out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some stuff has corrected, and I've seen some stuff correct, but we've had in some areas a 50% rise in values within 12 months, year over year to a year ago. I know personally I've sold things for 50% more than I sold them a year ago,
Really?
earlier this year. Yeah. So, and that was just a factor of the market.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, if the market cools down a little bit, we're not even where we were a year ago. So,
Essentially, the government sees contribution to Canadian GDP and they are happy about that. However, it is not coming from the locals and they are struggling to cope with the rise in house prices. As a result, the government is making an effort to reduce housing prices for locals by introducing the new 15% foreign buyers tax. The reason why foreign investors bought the houses in the first place is because they are wealthy. Would this tax policy have a long-term effect on deterring foreign buyers?
I don't know. The wealth that flows into this city, number one, a lot of the wealth flows through residents,
Hmm.
not non-residents. So maybe the husband works in China, but the wife stays at home and the kids go to, St. George's and he sends the money, it
Yeah.
flows through her. And if she buys a house, well, you know what? She's a resident, so there's no
Hmm.
15% tax. And then when a foreign investor does buy a home here, the dollar has dropped relative to other currencies.
Hmm.
It balances out, and there's so much wealth in these areas, particularly China, that wants to get out of the country.
Hmm.
It's just the cost of doing business. And even this month, there's new statistics showing that the rise in foreign investment is up again, not where it was, but
Hmm.
it's on the upswing. So I don't think it's going to affect. It's not going to make a $5 million house
Hmm.
turn into a five
I would
hundred
say
thousand
not the
dollar house.
long
Yeah.
term, but for at least 1 or 2 years. It depends if it's for a high-end house. Of course, 500 like $5 million means like the tax itself is like an apartment, so they are forgiving an apartment. Whereas if they buy somewhere else, it's cheaper. On the other hand, if you are talking about like entry level, like a one bedroom or like people who just afford to buy something, they might be affected because they save so much money and then now they afford to have like a one bedroom or two bedroom, but because of the tax they cannot buy now. So these two types of people I think will be affected, but investor I don't think they will be, because they would they would do the math. So they would say, oh, in 2 or 3 years they can make 20%, and then now it's a 15% tax, so they still make 5%. So it's more like you borrow some money to invest in the stock market.
If only the high-end luxury homes will see a drop in price in the long term, which most people still won't be able to afford, what would be a long-term solution to making housing affordable to everyday people?
The government should get more affordable housing, um, like Singapore or Hong Kong. Government actually build houses, build apartments, and then they can sell it or rent it to people they cannot afford privately owned property. So that way they can solve the problem. It's more like $400,000 for an apartment. If it's a government owned property, it would be like half price or even one quarter of the price. So they can afford.
In light of the price increases of 2016, the BC government did introduce a foreign buyers tax in an attempt to cool down the market. However, foreign investment is not the sole reason why housing is as expensive as it was in 2016, although it was a big factor. The fact that the market began its cool before the introduction of the taxes show that it depends on the rest of the economy as well. And with the Canadian dollar down, foreigners simply made the most of their money. However, as the economy continues to function in a relatively new city, it would be wise to prepare for the future to avoid difficult financial situations.
We asked these realtors what advice they had for students like us preparing to own a home in the future.
I've been a student before, went to university and put myself through university, so I know what it's like when the end of the month comes and you don't have any money left, and then you graduate and you have 50K in student loans. So it's tough because how do you save when A, there's really not much left because our wages are so low, or
Mhm.
B, you've got a huge student loan to pay off. So it's, yeah, you it probably should be asked, a financial advisor should probably answer part of this question, but what I think is there's a couple different things. So you gotta save as much as you can and not spend as much as you can, so you don't
Yeah,
have this debt burden when you graduate.
yeah.
And I think there also needs to be a changing of expectations in the market. And I see a lot of angst in the news, and when you read comments in online and everything, and
Hmm.
to these news articles that people can't afford houses,
Yep.
and it's really unfortunate. But I also believe the city is really young. If let's just talk about, well, we can talk about like Metro Vancouver in general.
Yep.
If you go back 150 years ago, it was a giant forest.
Yep.
Nobody lived here.
Mhm.
So the city is so new, and only in the last few decades has it really, I think, completed itself and come to this tipping point per se,
Mhm.
where we're now a global city and there's no more land,
Mhm.
and it's sort of unhinged from local fundamentals of wages. So you've got people that grew up in Dunbar,
Uh-huh.
and now they're graduating out of university, and they believe that they should still be able to live in Dunbar. Well, Dunbar is, within the city, that's one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the entire Metro Vancouver. And then you look at Metro Vancouver, like that's one of the most desirable places in the world. So
Mhm.
a lot has changed in 3 decades, and unfortunately, it's just not the way it was anymore. When your general practitioner and maybe your local plumber lived in Dunbar, and your teacher, it was a working class city. Like that's changed.
Mhm.
And if you go back to say Manhattan in New York, which I love, um, Manhattan was a swampland at one time. There was no skyscrapers there. There was no $100 million condos,
Mhm.
but it came to a point where there was, a few houses, and then there was like, just a little bit of land left, and then no more land left, and then denser and denser and denser,
Mhm.
and supply and demand is, prices are a function of supply and demand, and there's just, so I guess, sorry, kind of going on long here, but long story
Yep.
short, I just feel that the younger generation, the kind of need to, unfortunately, to give up that idea of a house and a white picket fence,
Uh-huh.
unless you're making really big money, because that's just the way the market is. And you go to more established cities that have been around for hundreds of years, like go to Europe, and
Mhm.
nobody lives in a single family house unless you're a zillionaire,
Mhm.
and a lot of people rent.
Yep.
I was reading something the other day, and I think it was in Paris or something like that. I think it was 65% of people rent, and
65.
I believe that's what it was. Don't quote me on that, but
That's
it's
nuts, yeah.
and way higher than we are here. And these are people that are, making good money. It did state, their wages were 150 to 250 or whatever it was. So,
Mhm.
I think we're just really in this transition point. And long story short, save, don't spend, uh, and change your expectations a little bit. There's lots of great options. It just might not be a house with a
I would
picket
say planning
fence.
for the future. It depends if you are living with parents or not for now. So um, I know the disposable income between now and let's say 10 years ago when I first start working, it changed a lot because we have much more expenses. In the old days, gas price is cheap, owning a car is cheap, even have a cell phone is cheap. 20 bucks you can have a cell phone. Now it could be what, $80. You have to pay for your internet. You have to pay for your, like right now they're talking about fiber optic. So people have at least a $200 phone bill or like telecom utility bills to pay for. People eat out more right now. So I don't think they can save much more or quicker than 10 years ago. So with the rate of inflation, so they are not catching up, so really hard. Even if the government is helping out, the trend or like the culture is making people spend more. So it's really tough for people to save more money now. And that's what we are saying that the rich people are getting rich now because the interest rate is really low. So they have the money, they can borrow more, they can invest. But people, they are just saving their first dollar. It's really hard because let's say right now a property is $400,000, and then all you need is 100,000 to buy it. Once you get the $100,000, it could already went up like another 20%. So, but your wage, your salary cannot go up that quickly. So that's why you have to both. You have to earn more and you have to save more. In that way, you can catch up with the inflation of the house. I don't think that house price will be slowing. It will be going up and quickly because of the inflation of the GIC, the interest rate all going down. Even gold is going down. In the old days, people invest in a few tools. They buy gold, they buy currency, they buy GIC, they buy income trust. These things, they are not working anymore. Even bond is not working, so they are making 1%, 2%. So even if you have like a $5 million, it's not much. You still have to work. In the old days, if you have $5 million, you don't have to work because of the interest. You can get 6, 7%. But now it's only maybe getting you like $20,000, $30,000, which is just basic. If you have a nice house, you have to pay property tax, and then you don't get. You will have to prepare to work longer hours. Like for me, I work 7 days a week. I work 12 hours a day. I have 2 jobs. I'm an accountant myself, so I do accounting work, and I'm also full-time realtor, so I do full-time real estate. So 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So basically, I'm working like 2.5 jobs. So that way, one job basically go to tax. One job basically is all my expenses. So I have still half a job. This is my saving. But without working that many hours, I won't have enough just to pay my expenses. Vancouver, I think, is a really special city. With accounting degree, or even with a degree in US or in Toronto, you can make a really good income. But in Vancouver, because we don't have that many head offices, we don't have big corporations, we don't have too many of the middle management positions, so you end up either chasing for the like entry-level jobs, or unless you have a good experience, you can go for the higher position. So middle management is the way to save and earn, but we don't have that many of the jobs there. Most of the head office in Ontario, Calgary, or even Saskatchewan or Quebec. So Vancouver heavily rely on industry. We don't have that many commercial or business activities in the city, so it's really tough for us to make more. In that case, for me, for my experience, I will have to work harder.
This issue of housing price has been a problem and will continue to be an ongoing situation as the City of Vancouver rides the slopes of the economy. We learned from the realtors that foreign investment is not the primary reason for price inflation, though it has certainly contributed to prices rising to such outrageous levels at times in the past. Instead, it is the economy as a whole that causes the inflation of housing prices. With the Canadian dollar at record lows, even though products and services are growing more expensive, the current prices would not appear as terrifying if the wages of the average working citizen were scaled up with the inflation of home prices.